Hey guys, this is T here in your next video. This one is on inflation, so it should help you out with exercise 3E.2. So inflation is something you may have heard in the news or just generally. And what it's about, we're not going to go hugely into detail about it for this topic, but you just need to understand that inflation is the general increase in the price of goods and services over time. So everything is getting more expensive as it goes on. Inflation means that the purchasing power, so say you had $100 now, of a certain amount of money reduces over time. So that $100 in a couple of years isn't going to be able to buy the same thing. So this is really important to consider when you're making investments because they take a long time to grow, but in the same amount of time, the expensive things, so everything may be more expensive. So your investment might not grow enough to cover that expense, and you won't actually grow the money for real. So a little worded example of that would be this. Suppose you put your money in a fixed term deposit we've been talking about, doing questions on, for 2 years. If inflation was running at 3% per year for those same 2 years, you would have to make sure that your investment was also increasing at 3% per year. And that only just makes sure that your money is the same, has the same buying power, so it could buy the same exact thing after that investment, because everything is becoming more expensive over that time period. If you actually wanted to grow your money in that time period, the investment would have to grow at more than 3%. Because if it's growing at 3% per year, it's only just equaling inflation. So it's only just keeping the same buying power. You have to grow it at more than 3% per year for you to actually have grown your money properly. So increase your purchasing power to more than you had before. So here we get to the maths. To find the real growth of an investment while you're actually thinking about inflation, so not ignoring it, which we have been doing so far, you need to find what's called the real rate of return on the investment. So the real rate of return on an investment is basically the percent increase of the future value of an investment compared to the value of the original investment if it had risen under the effect of inflation. So instead of imagining the original investment as the same, say, $5,000 and growing to 5,500, you would actually consider the original investment growing up to a slight increase, so that the increase between the grown original investment from inflation is actually smaller compared to the increase to the future value. And that's probably very confusing right now because it's all worded. You'll see how this works when we do an example anyway. But a note for you to get down, probably put in cheat sheet, is to find the real rate of return on an investment requires these 3 steps. So 1, find the future value of the investment legit, so that's ignoring inflation right now. The first step ignores inflation completely. So you either use FV is equal to PV, this formula we've used before, or you can just chuck in your graphics calculator, which we've learnt before. That will tell you what the investment would grow to just through the investment, from your fixed term deposit or your savings account, whatever. That's what it would grow to, ignoring inflation. Step 2, you need to find the original investment indexed for inflation. What does index for inflation mean? It just means you're finding what the original investment would grow to through inflation only. And so you use this formula here. The index value is going to be PV bracket 1 plus I to the power of n. You'll notice that's very similar to the original compounding interest formula. Alright? It's not this K inclusive one because inflation is per year. Alright, so I is going to be the inflation rate as a decimal, and is the number of years of inflation. And the last step, step 3, you're going to use TVM Solver to do the heavy lifting for you. Use TVM Solver and you're going to solve for I, but you're going to set PV to the indexed value from 2 as a negative. So whatever number that you found for step 2, you would put it into PV in TVM Solver, set it as negative. You would set FV to the FV found from 1, so whatever answer you got from here, you would put into FV as a positive. Then you would set PY and CY to both as 1, and then you'd solve for I and you would get the answer. It will tell you the real increase, the real percentage increase of your investment considering inflation, and that's the real rate of return. So to show you how this works, I'll do an example, okay? So you invested $5,000 at 5.6% per annum interest, compounding quarterly, so compound interest for 2 years, and that was 2 years ago. If inflation averaged 2% over that same 2 years, this question is asking you, can you find what the real increase on your 2-year investment is? Because yes, it's saying it's 5.6% per annum each year, compounding, but because your money, the inflation, the cost of everything is actually growing by 2% per year as well, it's not really going to increase by 5.6% per annum because its buying power is going to be less than that because everything is becoming more expensive. So, step 1, we need to find the FV, ignoring inflation. FV is equal to PV1 plus, it was I, wasn't it? Yep, I, but in this case it's the interest rate. The interest rate is 0.056 because it's 5.6% per annum over K. It's compounding quarterly for 2 years, so it's going to be 4. And then Kn is going to be 4 because it's compounding quarterly times by 2. Alright, so that goes to PV, which was 5,000. Get my calculator. 0.056 divided by 4 is going to be 0.014. Add 1 to it. So now we know what's in the brackets. 1.014. And 4 times 2 is 8. Work that out. 1.014 to the power of 8. And then times that by 5,000. You'll get 5588.22 to 2 decimal places. So that is what your investment would increase to, ignoring inflation. That's what your bank account is going to say your money has grown to. Okay? So that's what it's going to look like initially. But that is completely ignoring inflation. That's ignoring the fact that everything is becoming more expensive as time goes on. Alright, so step 2, indexed value. We want to work out what the original investment's going to grow to, would have to grow to, to have the same buying power due to inflation. So it's the formula from above. I'll do it. PV is 1 plus I to the n. So the index value is going to be 5,000 and 1 plus. So inflation is going at 2% per annum over those same 2 years. So the inflation rate is 0.022%. And then how many years was it? 2. So it's going to be 1.02 in the brackets to the power of 2 times by 5,000. That comes to 5202. Alright, so what that's telling you, the index value, that's telling you your 5,000 is going to have to grow to 5,202 for you to be able to have the same buying power with that money after 2 years. Okay, so we get to step 3 now, which is using TVM Solver, and use those instructions that I provided. Use TVM Solver to solve for I. You're going to set PV to the index value from 2, set FV to what you got from 1, and PY and CY set to 1 each. So go to TVM Solver and Apps, select Finance, select TVM Solver, set everything to the default, so 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and then 1, 1. So I'm ready to go, clean slate. So N is going to be 2, because it's for 2 years. I%, I'm not going to put anything in because I'm solving for that. So when you're working out on your piece of paper, you're going to put a star there because you're going to solve for that. Then PV, we've said is going to be your answer from step 2 as a negative. So it's going to be negative 5202. PMT, we're not making any payments, so that will be 0. FV we said would be your answer from 1, your FV from 1, which was 5588.22. 5588.22 as a positive, and then PY and CY are both going to be 1. So I've put everything in that I need. Now I just need to solve for I. So I did say that I put everything, but I didn't actually put it into my calculator, I just wrote it down. So now I'll put everything in. I will do alpha enter to solve for I, and that comes to 3.65 to 2 dp. It's actually 3.64576, but you'll round to 2 decimal places. So what does that mean? Therefore, real rate of return for this 2-year investment is actually 3.65%, considering inflation. So in basic terms, that means that your $5,000 investment, yes, in your bank account it says that increased to $5588.22, but considering the fact that everything increased in price by 2% per annum for those 2 years you invested it in, your investment only really grew in buying power by 3.65% per annum. So that is per annum there. Not overall. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out with exercise 3.2. Inflation's a tricky concept to get through, so if all you can understand is the 3 steps that I've gone through above here, you'll be right. You'll be set for any tests or exams that you need to cover with it, alright? So hopefully that helps you out, and I'll see you in the next video.